My name is Jack White, and I have researched the JFK assassination since 1963. My special interest is the study of photographs of the assassination. Today, I present my most recent photographic analysis. It proves that the most famous evidence of the assassination, the 8mm movie taken by Abraham Zapruder at noon in Dealey Plaza 35 years ago, has been altered and parts of it fabricated. What has been called the time clock of the assassination now cannot be of any value in that regard. What has been used by government commissions and researchers alike to determine wounds, shots, and actions in the presidential motorcade is totally unreliable as evidence. Millions of dollars are being sought from taxpayers for the so-called camera original, although it can now be proved that it is not the original at all. Yes, the film in the National Archives is not the camera original. It is a fake and a fabrication. It has been called the film of the century. I call it the hoax of the century. Let me explain. But before we start, let's play a short segment of relevant videotape featuring assassination witness Jean Hill.
I jumped out in the street and yelled, and started yelling at him, "Hey, Mr. President, look this way. We want to take your picture." I jumped out in the street. I jumped out in the street. I jumped out in the street.
Remember what Jean said, because it plays an important part in my analysis of the Zapruder film. You have seen it 100 times, the film of the assassination of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the young president on Elm Street, waving at friendly crowds. Suddenly, a shot rings out, and the president comes from behind a freeway sign. His hands go to his throat in distress. In the jump seat ahead of him sits John Connally, his right hand grasping his Stetson hat, until in frame 238, the governor's cheeks puff out and his right shoulder collapses as he is hit. Governor Connally screams out, "My God, they're going to kill us all." Mrs. Kennedy looks at her husband in stunned disbelief, and her left hand grasps his wrist. The gravely wounded Connally turns to look directly at the president. The president begins to slump forward and to his left, and his wife bends to look in his face. Her face is close to his, and her arm is across his chest. Her left hand is on his right shoulder when suddenly the president's head explodes just inches from her head. The next frame reveals a massive exit wound of the right temple and forehead, and change size and change shape as he falls toward his wife's lap. The entire forehead is shown to be missing, leaving nothing but a stump of head and a bright white blob where his forehead was. Back in the 70s, in my slide lectures, I began questioning the authenticity of these head wounds. My audiences agreed that these head wounds were very strange, especially since all other evidence indicated that the president's face was undamaged. I began wondering whether the Zapruder film was authentic. To the selected Zapruder frames, more than a year of recent study, I can now say positively that the Zapruder film, the film of the century, can be proved to be the hoax of the century. The obviously phony head wound had initiated my interest in fabrication of the film, but my research really started to accelerate in the summer of 1998 when my friend Robert Groden invited me to attend the filming in Dealey Plaza of a Turner television documentary where he was serving as a consultant. My camera and I went to the plaza, where I introduced myself to two styrofoam figures representing JFK and Connally, sitting in an exact replica of the motorcade limousine. Connecting the president and the governor was a yellow rod which represented the single bullet theory. The limo was placed by professional surveyors in the 313 limousine position from many important locations, such as Orville Nix's, and from the place where Mary Moorman is shown to be standing in the Zapruder film. Most importantly, he is in a rifle firing position with a puff of smoke in front of his chin. Behind Badgeman, a man in a construction helmet is looking over his shoulder. Some 20 feet southeast of Badgeman, a soldier named Gordon Arnold is filming the assassination with his mother's movie camera. Badgeman was thought to be an important research breakthrough when discovered in 1982. It is certain that the Moorman Polaroid is genuine. There was no time nor opportunity to tamper with it, since this copy of the photo, propped up next to a Zippo lighter, was made by a Dallas Press photographer within about 2 hours from the time Mary snapped it. Its background proves it was printed from the Zippo negative taken on 11/22/63. The lack of the large fingerprint artifact also identifies it. So we are certain the Moorman photo, what is undoubtedly the most important photo of the assassination. Suspiciously, her photo was not entered in evidence nor published by the Warren Commission. Neither was she called to testify by the Commission. Why? Because her photo and testimony were dangerous to the official conclusion of a lone nut assassin. First, her photo showed the image of Badgeman firing a frontal shot. Also, it may contain other images, such as a gunman in the acoustics position behind the fence, and perhaps a piece of skull flying from the rear of the head. My recent computer enhancement of JFK's right shoulder shows something in the air over his right shoulder, which is not part of the coat. His friend Gene Hill, as well as helping Mary take the photos, also provides very important information which helps the Moorman photo prove that the Z film is false, as I will show. Jean has always said she and Mary stepped into the street to take the photo, and she has always claimed that the Commission changed her testimony to merely near the street. I've already shown you a video of Jean saying that she and Mary stepped into the street to take the photo, and here is a page from Jean's book which tells the same story, which she has not changed in 35 years. Notice that she writes that she stepped into the street and said, "Hey, Mr. President, look over here. We want to take your picture." As you may know, the Zapruder film shows both Jean and Mary on the grass, about 2 feet south of the curb. Mary is seen here in the black coat taking her photo. Jean and Mary are clearly not in the street as they insisted. With these anomalies in mind, in August I began trying to resolve the differences between Moorman and Zapruder. Here is an enlargement of Mr. Z and his secretary on the pedestal. Notice that Zapruder seems startled, his knees bent, and the camera perhaps lowered. When I made a giant enlargement of this on my computer screen, I immediately saw something important I had never noticed before. Furthermore, the top edge of the pedestal exactly lined up horizontally with the bottom edge of the same window. Thus the lines A and B of the window and lines C and D of the pedestal join to form a perfect cross, an ideal reference point for finding the exact line of sight of Moorman's camera. Find the cross, and you have the Moorman line of sight. The lens of Moorman's Polaroid camera must line up the pedestal with the window as shown. Any other line of sight will not result in this lineup. Using this visual cross as a reference, I knew I could establish the exact viewpoint from which the Moorman picture was taken. Notice that I do not say location. This is merely a line of sight on which the camera lens must be located. Here is a plat of Dealey Plaza showing the line of sight between the cross and Moorman's position. And you can see that it confirms my observation. The camera has to be somewhere on this line. But remember, I had taken a photo of the Crute limousine from the presumed Merman location shown in the Z film, and it did not match this cross alignment. So I decided to find the true line of sight and take measurements. I went to the plaza with an 8-foot pole marked in 1-foot segments. Robert Groden kindly assisted me by taking photos which would give me an exact scale of many locations, both vertically and horizontally. While doing this, I decided to locate the cross I have mentioned. I found the cross lineup approximately 8 feet west of the position where Merman is shown in the Zapruder film. Note my 8-foot measuring rod on the curve. Remembering this location, I scanned into my computer one of my slides and created this white cross where the line of sight is across the street. It has a vertical line representing the exact side-to-side line of sight and a white crossbar representing the exact height of the camera lens off the ground. The red dot represents the exact line of sight that the camera lens had to be on for the Merman photo to capture the reference point of the cross across the street. I then put this new information to work. Remember the photo of the Crute limo at the frame 313 position? Since the limo provided an exact scale and position, I decided to overlay a Z-frame showing Mary Merman's position onto the Crute limo. Because frame 313 is blurry and Merman is only barely seen, I decided to use frame 312, in which Mary is clearly seen for the last time. The use of 312 instead of 313 actually makes for an even greater distance east for Mary, as I have drawn in blue here. So the fact I'm comparing frame 312 to the 313 limo position actually strengthens my conclusions. Overlaying frame 312 onto the Crute limo to precise scale, I obtained exact fit of the two limos. Notice that this places Merman about 4 feet northwest of the present-day lamppost, exactly where she is shown in the Zapruder film and map placements. This Z overlay over the present-day scene gives us an accurate reference for comparison. But wait, remember my white cross? It is about 8 feet west of where Mary is seen in this composite. Merman's photo can only be taken from the side-to-side location of my white cross. Here I have overlaid the photo of the white cross onto the previous composite. This slide shows the alleged position of Merman in the Zapruder film, along with the actual line of sight where her photo had to be taken, the white cross with the red dot. You can see that they do not match. Up to now, I had been working only with approximations to the nearest foot. I decided I needed to be more exact before presenting my findings as evidence. Knowing that Mary Merman's height was 5'2", I prepared a stick of that length with enough at the bottom to drive it into the ground. Looking past the stick across Elm Street and locating the cross formed by the window and the pedestal, I drove the stick into the soft ground till its top was at 5'2". When I located the reference cross on the knoll, I taped red paper at that spot on my stick. As you can see, the red mark on the stick exactly coincides with the reference cross on the knoll. This has to be the exact line of sight of the Merman photo. But wait, if Mary is standing where she is seen in the Zapruder film, 2 feet back from the curb, the lens is found by my tape measure to be only 44.5 inches off the ground, or 17.5 inches below the top of her head. But the camera cannot be that low, nearly to her waist. Look where the camera is held to her eye in frame 312, at least a foot higher than the line of sight I had located. Well, how can that be? Remember what Gene Hill said, that they stepped off the curb into the street to take the photo? Well, look here. The ground slopes sharply several inches toward the street. and the street in 1963 was at least 8 inches lower than where Moorman and Hill are seen in the Z film. Using my cane to demonstrate, I showed that the street was about a foot lower than the grass where Moorman and Hill were alleged to be standing. A foot lower is just the right amount to lower Mary to the correct line of sight to locate the reference cross on the knoll in the camera viewfinder. And the street pavement in 1963 was more than 3 inches lower than today, as revealed by repaving layers of asphalt at storm sewer openings, which made the street even lower in 1963. Two researchers from New York, Peter and Perrine McKenna, who came to the plaza to take some measurements, assisted me with these photos. Peter took this picture of me and his wife from the pedestal. Here you see Perrine and me with the Moorman stick. Perrine is 5'5" and is standing 2 feet back from the curb for comparison with the 5'2" Moorman height. The red spot on the stick represents the exact position of the camera to be on the correct line of sight to the pergola reference cross. Here I have overlaid the previous photo over the composite of the limousine and frame 312, so you can see where Moorman had to be standing on November 22nd to have the correct line of sight. She had to be where the stick is. Anyone can go to the plaza and determine this. We precisely represent Mary at 62 inches, me at 72 inches, and Perrine at 65 inches. The limo is the correct size and location, so this is an accurate representation of Mary's false Zapruder location and the true Moorman photo horizontal location, though not the correct vertical location. Notice that the 5'2" Moorman is nearly as tall as I am and appears taller than the 5'5" Perrine. She obviously is enlarged compared to reality. Here I have added yellow spots to represent the camera lens. In the Z frame at left, we see the camera held to the eye of Mary Moorman. But at the right, we see a spot at the only actual location of the line of sight that the photo could be taken, and it is about a foot lower. She cannot take the photo standing on the grass, so she must be about a foot lower in the street to be on the correct line of sight. From the foregoing study, I have concluded that Z-frame 312 cannot be a depiction of the true location of Mary Moorman when she snapped her photo. Since the Moorman photo is genuine, then frame 312 and all other frames showing Hill and Moorman on the grass must necessarily show them in false positions. This is decisive proof of tampering of the Zapruder film. And there are other proofs. Additional proof of Zapruder film alteration is provided by the yellow curb stripes in the kill zone. Researchers have known for many years about a series of meaningless 4-foot yellow painted curb stripes along the south curb of Elm Street in the kill zone. It has long been suspected that the conspirators painted these stripes to delineate the area where the shots were to be fired. You can see remnants of the paint on the curb even today. Suspecting that the curb markings would provide an exact scale for Z-frame comparisons, I made another trip to the plaza. I took along strips of orange paper to accent the exact locations of the stripes so I could photograph them from the pedestal. Here you see the exact position of the easternmost stripe. Here are the two other stripes west of the first one. They are all approximately 40 feet apart. I asked Robin Deloria, a New York researcher who had been helping me make computer composites for this presentation, to combine the two curb photos into a panoramic view. Here is the resulting panorama with the locations of the yellow stripes marked for easier reference. Remember, this panoramic view was photographed from the Zapruder pedestal. These markings have long been known. Here is a Dealey Plaza plat drawn by Robert Cutler in the 1970s, which clearly and accurately locates the yellow stripes. I have highlighted them and drawn lines to them from the Zapruder pedestal as part of my study. I then looked at the film for all the Z frames which show the yellow curb stripes. Quite a few frames show the stripes, but I selected this one as the perfect comparison frame since it shows a complete yellow stripe clearly and sharply. The frame you see here, labeled 355, is from the new MPI version. Unfortunately, some MPI frames are misnumbered at several points after the headshot, so cannot be relied on, but I will not attempt to correct their errors here. I have pointed to the stripe here with yellow lines. It is easily seen that knowing the location and length of the stripe provides an exact scale for comparison by overlaying the Z frame on the present-day view. Here, vertical lines have been added so that the two yellow stripes could be scaled to the exact same size. You can see from the lines and dots that the scale is the same. When the full frame of 355 is overlaid onto the present scene of the yellow stripes, we see that the scale of the Zapruder frame is much too large. It shows grass overlapping the area where the pavement of Main Street should be seen, as I have indicated with lines and type. This overlap can be calculated to be approximately 130% enlargement in order to extend that high, measuring from the curb to the top of the frame. When we superimpose a ghosted frame 355 onto the Dealey panorama, using the yellow stripe for position, we can easily see that a very tall James Altgens towers over the scene shooting photographs. I suspect that the curb was used as a convenient dividing line by the animation workers. The areas above the curb seem to be enlarged and moved around selectively. It is plain that this enlargement of the background, proved by the yellow curb stripes, is another decisive proof of alteration. And there is more. Speaking of people who are much too tall from enlargement of the background, in many frames a woman is seen running toward Elm Street. If the Zapruder film is authentic, she can be shown to be approaching 7 feet tall. Here we see the running woman in the background, while Mary Moorman is taking a photo in frame 312. By pure coincidence, the position of the running woman in frame 312 is in an exact location which enables us to determine her height in the Zapruder film. The present-day lampposts in Dealey Plaza, both by my measurement and confirmation of the Dallas Park Department, are exactly 14 feet tall. As luck would have it, in this composite, the feet of the running woman fall exactly on a line drawn between the bases of two lampposts. This provides a precise scale of the height of the woman. As you can see, a line drawn between the tops of the poles is 14 feet above the ground, and a connecting line halfway up is 7 feet above the ground. Since the woman's feet are on the ground level line, she is easily measured to be at least 6 foot 6 inches tall. Researchers who have located and talked to this running woman tell me that her actual height is 5 feet. If other frames have backgrounds enlarged about 130%, as I have shown, let's compare her actual height of 60 inches to the height shown here of about 78 inches. Let's see what the math is. Yep, 78 inches is exactly 130% of 60 inches, confirming a uniform enlargement of the background. The film, therefore, cannot be authentic. And there is more. Comparing the Z film to the Moorman photo proved very fruitful. So I decided to compare it to other photos. By far the most interesting of these is the Cancelleri photo taken by Life magazine photographer Frank Cancelleri. His photo provides a very strong indication of alteration. through comparison of people and vehicles. Upon hearing the shots, Cancelleri and other photographers jumped from the photographer's convertible and ran toward the grassy knoll. There, an estimated 20 seconds after the final shots, Cancelleri and other photographers filmed Bill and Gail Newman lying on the grass shielding their children. There is no doubt that this is a genuine photo of the immediate post-assassination scene. The Cancelleri photo seems to indicate additional alterations to the Zapruder film. A man and an object are seen in a pickup truck in the Cancelleri picture, which are not there 20 seconds earlier in the Zapruder film. And Cancelleri also shows a long sedan, which in the Z film undergoes several peculiar transformations and seems to become a short pickup truck. Here is frame 404, misnumbered on the MPI video as 403, a typical Z frame which shows the stalled traffic on Commerce Street in the background. Take particular notice of the pickup truck behind the lamppost. You can clearly see that the bed of the pickup truck is entirely empty in the Zapruder film. An enlargement from that frame makes it certain that no person nor object is in the pickup bed. Now let's look at the full width of Cancelleri before we make a comparison of the vehicles shown in Zapruder. Let's zoom in and see what the Commerce stall traffic shows. Near the triple underpass at right, we see James Tague standing by his car. Next, we see a person standing by an open car door. The car perhaps appears to be a long 1963 Pontiac two-door sedan with a person standing by the open door. Next car, hidden behind the photographer Alkins in the foreground, is a midget car. It has been identified as perhaps a British Austin or Morris Minor. Next is the pickup truck of indeterminate make with a man and an object in the pickup bed. A close-up of the Cancelleri photo shows a man kneeling inside the pickup bed, perhaps with an object beside him to his left. 20 seconds earlier, the pickup man and object were not present in the Zapruder film. Now let's look at the far right of these Z frames. Here we see MPI frames 410, 411, 415, and 416, all lined up vertically so that the midget car lines up in each frame. Notice that the next car westward undergoes puzzling changes until it eventually appears to become a short pickup truck. Remember, in the Cancelleri photo, we saw that it was a long two-door sedan with a man standing by the open door. 10 minutes later, this Murray photo shows the midget auto and the long Pontiac sedan, definitely not a pickup truck, and much longer than the apparent truck seen in Zapruder. James Tague told me he remembers the occupant of the sedan leaving his car parked, as Tague did, and mingling with other witnesses. Tague himself wandered up to the area in the oval at right, where he was photographed with the group which included Buddy Walters, who were all gathered by a manhole cover where a bullet or other debris was found, as seen in this photo. And there are more strange observations. Further indication of Zapruder film alteration is provided by the apparently 31 motionless people seen along the curb on the north side of Elm. From the beginning of the Z film, we see a group of people, shoulder to shoulder, standing along the Elm curb in single file. For nearly 200 frames, they stand almost totally motionless. The lead motorcycles approach. The people do not move. People on the south curb move about. Those on the north curb are motionless and unemotional. They are sharply seen in frame 131. But in frame 132, the scene suddenly becomes blurry, as apparently Zapruder quits filming. There is no apparent fade-out, as is often customary when releasing the shutter button of the camera. And as you will learn later, Zapruder did not stop filming here. Suddenly, the presidential limo abruptly appears in frame 133, already well down Elm Street from the intersection. There is no fade-in exposure, as is sometimes customary. Well, what does the Z film miss during the break between frames 132 and 133? The third lead motorcycle, the Curry-Decker lead car approaching on Houston, turning the corner and leaving the Zapruder field of view, the limo and motorcycles approaching, turning the corner in an erratic manner, and entering Zapruder's field of view and reaching the location of frame 133. None of these things are the limo. You will learn that he was correct. Frames are missing between frames 132 and 133. During all of this missing time, only one person has shifted stance slightly. How much time is missing? I estimate perhaps as well over 30 seconds. Does it make any sense that 31 people would remain perfectly motionless for this long? When the president comes into view, it's natural that spectators should turn toward him, clap, wave, or show some emotion, but they stand motionless. And since Zapruder was there to film the president, why would he film the lead motorcycles, stop, but then resume filming only after the president was well westward on Elm Street? Did he really not film the presidential limo when it rounded the corner and started down Elm Street? Really unlikely, in my opinion. Well, if frames were removed between 132 and 133, what was it that someone wanted to hide? Was it a very wide turn of the limo and an awkward effort to regain the mid-street course? Was it indications of missed shots near the intersection? Could the motionless spectators be used to hide peculiar limo wanderings? The motionless spectators are in place for nearly 200 frames, plus the missing gap between 132 and 133. Yet if the same stretch of curb is examined in other photos, such as Willis 5, Betzner, Bronson, and others, such as Altgens, we find that the people seem to be somewhat different in number, description, and actions. Now, it is true that the Altgens photo was snapped several seconds after the Z frames showing the motionless people, but there is no reason to believe the people would have changed positions very much in that brief time. Here I have flopped part of Altgens and placed it beside a Z frame for comparison. Let's compare. Number one person in both pictures is a man in a construction helmet, claimed by Fletcher Prouty to resemble Agent Lucian Conine. Number two in Altgens seems to be a man in a dark coat and white shirt, but number two in Zapruder is a brown-haired woman in white blouse and black skirt. Number three in Altgens is a smiling woman in a white blouse who seems to be clapping, but number three in Zapruder is a dark-haired woman in a dark dress or coat. Number four in Altgens is plainly a black woman with lots of black hair, her face partially obscured by the hand of woman number five. But number four in Zapruder is a stout, short, blonde, white woman with a light blue blouse or jacket. Now let's look at woman number five. In Altgens, she wears a dark dress and with her left arm raised may be donning a white jacket which is over her shoulder. But in Zapruder, she has a dark dress and no white jacket. Woman number six in Altgens is clapping and wears a light-colored dress, but in Zapruder, she has on a dark topcoat. How can all these be the same people? Only the man in the construction helmet seems the same to me. In Willis 5, the First Lady west of the man in the helmet has on a red skirt. In Zapruder, she appears to have on a black and white skirt of print design. Additional comparisons with all photos should be made to find any other discrepancies. For instance, a close-up from the Bronson slide shows the same 5 women closest to the Stemmen sign that are seen in Zapruder and at approximately the same time. Here you see an extreme enlargement of the Bronson women. I have numbered them for easy reference, 1 through 5, from west to east. Note that the limousine is just passing them. Here I have flopped Z-frame 183 showing the same 5 women so that they can be numbered west to east for comparison with the Bronson ladies. Note that the limo is just about even with them. Both photos are exposed at nearly the same moment, within a second or two. Notice the following. Lady 1 has a blue headscarf and dark topcoat in both Zapruder and Bronson. No apparent discrepancy. Lady 2 has a dark blue dress and is clapping hands in front of her chest. No apparent discrepancy. Lady 3 in Zapruder has a maroon or blue hip-length jacket and a light skirt, and her hands are at her side, possibly holding a purse. In Bronson, this woman has a bulky, long black topcoat and is waving her right hand above her head. Her flesh tones are much darker than ladies 2 and 5, raising ethnic possibilities. Lady 4 in Zapruder has a maroon or pink blouse and a dark blue skirt, and her hands are down in front of her. In Bronson, her clothing is similar, but she is waving vigorously, her right arm extended high. Her arm appears to be bare, or with lighter or yellow sleeve. 5 in Zapruder is in an all-pink dress and clutches a purse under her left arm. In Bronson, she has on a gold-colored dress and no purse is seen. She also appears to be wearing a blue sweater or jacket and waving her right hand high in the air. But additional analysis, the alternate possibility that the blue jacket or shirt could perhaps belong to a waving person whose face is not seen, standing very close immediately behind the number 5 lady. Either way, Bronson Lady 5 seems different than the Zapruder lady. Her dress is a different color, and she possibly may be wearing a blue sweater, or a person with a blue shirt or sweater may be standing behind her. But no blue-shirted person can be seen waving behind her in Zapruder, and the pink-dressed Zapruder lady lacks a blue sweater. Many other comparisons such as these can be made. My conclusion is that the 31 motionless curve people may result from alteration of the film. The same group seems to have been repeated frame after frame. I have presented just a few anomalies. There are many other things which still need to be studied, such as the unexplained 132 to 133 unfilmed gap, sudden moves, such as the Greer head turn and the movement of the Brim boy, Connolly's turns, which do not match his testimony, JFK's wandering head wound, which contradicts testimony of all witnesses, as well as autopsy photos, consecutive frames which are in focus and out of focus, or blurred and not blurred, the irregularity of the limo blinking lights, incorrect shadows, odd artifacts, action studies of apparent inconsistent movements, such as Clint Hill's dash and boarding of the limo, many sizes or positions in the film which are wrong, as I have shown with the Mormon photo, extremely odd people, such as amoeba man, stick man, running woman, and the giant Altgens, ghost images and other anomalies in the inner sprocket areas, conflicts of Z-frames with testimony. I could go on and on with areas needing further study. In closing, I will mention just a few of these anomalies needing more study, such as the black trapezoid, an unexplainable geometric shape which appears in this one frame only. And let's take a look at inconsistent shadows. Here we have a lamppost shadow, which is consistent with most other shadows in the plaza, pointing generally toward the book depository. The shadow of the lamppost is measurable at a 12-degree angle to the curb of Main Street. But only 47 frames later, another lamppost casts a shadow which has a 140-degree angle to the curb. In 47 frames, the shadow angle changes 128 degrees, although the Zapruder panning angle of arc changes only 34 degrees. This seems strange to me, and it certainly deserves expert study. But wait, here is an image which may give us two anomalies at once. The shadow of the lamppost goes one direction, and the shadow of the man goes a different direction. Did I say man? This is a figure which I call stick man. He looks like a stick figure which a child might draw, not like any photographic image of a real person. In fact, just a few frames earlier, I refer to him as Amoeba Man because his formless shape changes as he moves. Watch as he assumes many peculiar shapes as he runs past the lamppost at the right. He is at far right here, and though very blurry and inhuman looking, he covers very little ground, but changes shape often. Well, that is enough of my proof for the moment. There are many other anomalies which need further study. Suffice it to say for now that the Mormon photo is all that is needed to conclusively prove that the so-called camera original Z film is a fabrication. Proving that the film has been altered, of course, is not the same thing as explaining why it was altered. Even in this case, however, there is very new information. A new JFK book published in France this summer by respected French journalist William Raymond has previously unknown information on this. Raymond was in Dallas in early November writing assassination coverage for France's leading magazine, Le Figaro. He kindly recorded for me a statement regarding the Zapruder film. From a secret French intelligence source, he has been shown a version of the unaltered Zapruder film. Here is part of what Mr. Raymond says.
About the Z film, a complete version exists. This version seems to be the HL and the secret copy. I met some witnesses who watched it in the mid-70s, and I have a privilege to watch it a couple of times myself. The quality is good and the information on it is very important. 4 sequences were absolutely new to me. First, the turn on Elm Street. Mr. Z never stopped filming. On this version you can see the turn of a limo, on this version you can see the turn of a Curry pilot car and also the JFK limo.
A missed shot hits the top edge of the Stemmons sign, and debris flies upward. 8. Just past the Stemmons sign, the limo stops for about 2 seconds. 9. Then 2 shots hit the JFK head almost simultaneously, and the limo pulls away. Raymond's information is that there were likely more than 3 three-man shooter teams in at least 3 locations. He was told the identities of some. French intelligence sources told him that this man fired one of the headshots and was the primary shooter. The others were backups. This man was a French mercenary and was known to be the best rifle shot in the world by French intelligence at that time. If what Raymond says is correct, then we not only know that the Zapruder film has been altered, but why it has been altered as well. His information obviously needs to be pursued, and the film he has seen be seen by others. But there can be no doubt now that the Zapruder film has been subjected to extensive alteration and may be the greatest hoax of all time. The official history of the assassination has now been proved to be a lie.
I'm Jim Mars, and I am here today interviewing Mr. William Raymond, a 29-year-old freelance journalist from Paris, France. William has said that he has seen an unedited, unaltered version of the famous Zapruder film. William, when did you first become aware that the film that you were to see was not the same film that was being shown to the American public?
In fact, 3 years ago, by chance, just after a discussion with a friend of mine who was a soldier of fortune and a mercenary, and he talked about the JFK assassination, and he said, you have a film, I see a film, and on this film you can perfectly watch the headshot, for example. I was very impressed by the headshot. And he said the limo stopped and JFK was hit twice on the head, and that's so perfect.
And you knew that that isn't what you had seen on the Zapruder film?
On the first time, I don't realize that, because I was not involved on the investigation, but I met 2 or 3 more witnesses about a French organization, a far-right organization. The name is High-Tech.
Mm-hmm.
And
that High-Tech is spelled E-T-E-C.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this guy told me the same story about the film. And one of these guys one day mentioned the turn on Helm.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, wait a minute. On the Zapruder film, you can watch the turn on Helm.
There's no turn.
And at this moment, I understood that another film, another version exists.
So how many of these people, were there 2 or 3 that you talked with who had seen this other film?
Yeah, I talked with 3 people.
3 people.
3 people.
The first man that you met that talked about this film, was he a member of French intelligence or some French agency?
Yeah, he was a member of French intelligence, and in fact, ITEC was a very special group with some people from agencies, some people from terrorists, and some people from the drug system, like Christian David, for example. Christian David was a member of ITEC too, and I suppose he watched the film and he learned a lot of things about the assassination.
So Christian David was a member of this ITEC organization, and you think that that's where he may have seen this unaltered film of the assassination, which gave him what appeared to be insider information?
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. And then from this man, you actually met the man who possessed the film.
Yeah. I met the owner of this film. He was an ex-leader of the far right in France during the 60s and the beginning of the 70s. And he had a perfect copy of the original version, and now he's a little bit afraid about that.
Well, why is he hesitant to come forward with the film now?
He was afraid because I think he knew some people who was involved in the assassination, of the JFK assassination, and he told me how he obtained the film, and it seems to be one of a copy of Lafayette Hunt film, H.L. Hunt film, and now I have some information that Hunt just maybe 2 or 3 hours after the assassination, buy to Abraham Zapruder a copy of the film.
So what you're saying is that 2 or 3 hours after the assassination of President Kennedy, Dallas oil man H.L. Hunt purchased a copy of the unaltered original Zapruder film from Abraham Zapruder.
Yeah.
And that's where the copies that you have seen came from.
Yeah.
I see. You know, a few years ago there was quite a little stir in the media here in the United States about these three Frenchmen that were identified as possibly being the assassins of President Kennedy. I think that was Michael Victor Mertz, Christian David, and Michael Roux. From your information, were any one of these men involved in the assassination?
Yeah, you have Michel Roux was not involved in the assassination. Michel Roux was in Fort Worth in November, but he was not involved in the assassination. I found the name of the alibi of Michel Roux during his stay in Dallas and Fort Worth, but he was not involved. But Michel Mertz was in Dallas, not really involved, made just for watch out another French group who was involved, and I suppose you know the Tramps.
Mm-hmm.
And I say now, well, the first one and the second one, the Frenchie and the tourist was French. The first was Max. His name of war is Max, and Max was the best sniper in the French army in the end of the 50s, and he was a defector. He joined the US on the beginning of the 60s, and he was paid for kill Kennedy in the 63.
So the picture of the infamous three tramps were of three Frenchmen?
No, the third one,
the old man.
Yeah, the old man with hat. If I remember, was an American. And
do you have his identity?
No.
Okay.
No. And Max was arrested 40 minutes after the assassination.
And Max was the first tramp, the one they called Frenchie.
Yeah, he was a shooter. He was a very good sniper, very, very good sniper. And he was arrested 40 minutes after the assassination with the help of Lee Bowers.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in jail, and he was released 2 hours after the assassination. He was released by the INS, the Immigration and Naturalization Service, and he was transferred to Montreal in Canada.
Do you have any information as to where this sniper Max may have been located during the shooting?
Max was beyond the fence,
on the grassy
knoll, of course. The first shot of Max, in fact, the kill zone was not just after the Stevens sign, but before, on the turn. But because Graham missed his turn, the killing zone changed. At this moment of the first time, just after the turn, Max shot Kennedy first time on the throat. In fact, he wanted to shoot him in the head, but because Graham missed his turn, the bullet crossed the windshield and hit Kennedy on the throat.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, when the limo when the limo stopped, Kennedy was hit twice on the head. One just here,
mm-hmm.
was Max,
mm-hmm.
and here was another shooter.
So one from slightly behind and one from slightly in front.
Yeah.
Almost simultaneous.
Yeah, maybe less than 1 second.
Okay. Are you aware that there's Warren Commission testimony from Roy Truly, the building superintendent, who said that the presidential limousine made a very wide turn and almost came up on the curb?
No.
You weren't aware of
that? No.
But see, that tends to confirm what the information is.
In fact, the first time I watched the Z film, I was very impressed and I have a feeling that the limo got directly on the pergola, on the grassy knoll, and missed completely the road. And
are you trying to say that he may have been trying to turn into the street that ran right in front of him, and then realized that the street turned further?
The limo is very near the curb. It's very, very near.
Okay.
When you prepare this kind of operation, you have a plan A, plan B, plan C, or maybe a plan D.
So they had to go to backup.
Yeah, I have information about a plan C, about a car just after the triple underpass, a car with a lot of dynamite, a bombing car, was managed by a French guy. The name is Etienne, was a specialist of the bombing. And the plan A is to kill Kennedy on this kill zone, and because the perfect crossfire, because the Baltec building, the depository, and the grassy knoll.
So you're talking about plan A would have been right there at the turn of Elm and Houston.
Just on the exit of the turn, when the limo is really slowed down, right?
Mm-hmm.
At this moment, the operation is a complete mess. You have a lot of shots, and it's quite a panic for a second. But these guys are professionals. The job of this guy is killing people, and so plan A is wrong. So now it's plan B, and in plan B you have a very important thing is the umbrella man. I said that the umbrella man exists not for the shooters, but for the driver, because all the team of shooters have some radio contacts, and but the Bill Greer don't have this kind of information, and for him the only information is visual information, and when he just see the umbrella, he knew that the plan A is wrong, and now it's plan B, and plan B, he need to stop the limo, and it was it.
Well, now, there's always been a controversy over whether or not the car actually came to a stop, or if it just slowed, and then picked up speed. What did you see on this, what you say is the original Zapruder film?
On the original film, you can see a complete stop of a limo.
Came to a complete stop.
For a short time, maybe 2 seconds. The limo goes slow down, stopped, and go away.
Then goes. There's also been some discussion by people and some idea that perhaps one of the bullets fired struck the Stemmons Freeway sign, which of course turned up missing and nobody's ever seen it again. Was there any information, have you seen anything in the film that confirm or deny that?
Yeah, because Graham missed his turn, one of the shots hit the Stemmons sign. And
you could see it on the film?
Yeah, you can see something, I don't know the right word, something poof, on the...
Ricochet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On the sign.
Something flew off of the sign.
Yeah, flew off of the sign. Yeah.
Interesting. And so, based on what you saw in the film, based on your study, how many shots?
8 or 9, less.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you plan to try to bring this film to the public?
I try.